right, everybody, welcome to the very first episode of what will hopefully become the best podcast on ontology possibly ever produced in 2026. Welcome to episode 1, season 1 of BFO, Your New BFF. Now, before we talk about what ontology is and why it's so cool, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Jonathan. I have a 20-year to 23-year experience in learning and training. And my relationship to ontology was actually something that I heard about from other people that I hung around with. They kept talking about this ontology thing. I didn't really know what it was, but I was creeping on the conversations, and I could tell based off what they were saying, like, there's a way that I can use this as a superpower for good in learning and training. I know it's there. I just need to learn more about it. Then I enrolled in a PhD program for applied ontology, so my superpowers are weak right now, but they will be stronger. Now, I know you all are hearing this. You can't see the 3 other people, but you're about to meet them.
Hey, podcasters. This is Sarah. I have 18 years of mathematics and statistics experience, and where I work right now, we have been aiming for 4 years to start up a grassroots efforts of using ontology to solve all of our data problems. When I started 4 years ago, I didn't know what ontology was, so I took this same journey that you all are about to take, learning about its benefits and the wonderful things it can do to bring data together. And I look forward to telling you all about them.
Hey, podcasters out in the verse. I am Eliza, and I have been in my current position for a little over 10 years, and was also introduced about 4 years ago to this superpower known as ontology, and had no idea really what it was. And it's been a learning journey for me along the way. I still feel like I'm a bit at the beginning stages, but it's really been proven to me over this time frame how it can be used as a force for good and being able to make our data machine ready so that we can enable decisions faster. And over to the next person.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody. My name is Cristian. I am currently a grad student at the University of Buffalo learning about applied ontology. So I'm a little green around the ears, but I'm also trying to learn how to use these superpowers, that is applied ontology. The purpose is to create a data interoperable world so that we can make really good data-based decision-making. Yeah.
All right, so now that you know who we are, what we're about, why we're here, why we're making this podcast, one of us does have a superpower. They are psychic, and they know the question that is on all of your minds right now. And Sarah is going to ask it for us. Show us your psychic power, Sarah.
That is my favorite question. I hear it all the time. What is an ontology? And a lot of times people say oncology. And I say, no, we are not talking about cancer research. We are talking about ontology. And then I flounder for a few minutes and try to explain what it is. I bet one of my podcast hosts has a really succinct explanation for you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That is so true because we wrote it out because we're good podcast hosts. We got notes. Yeah. Now, I'll do my best teacher impersonation. It's been a minute since I've been in the classroom, but we have the technical definition written down, and then we can all discuss. An ontology is a collection of terms and relational expressions and associated natural language definitions together with one or more formal theories designed to capture the intended interpretation of these definitions.
Wow, I bet that really helped our listeners out there.
Oh, it did. It did. But I feel like for the 5% that just didn't get it, what does that mean in actual English? What did I just say? Because I know we all got personal experiences here with ontologies, right? We all have our own personal definition here. I've got my own. Eliza, what's your personal definition of ontology?
John, mine is essentially that ontology is a dictionary that computers can read. That's my go-to whenever I am trying to explain sloppily most of the time what it is we are doing.
Awesome. So it's a giant book that helps you see things better.
Yeah, it's like it's like a million phone books all smushed in one.
That is a very cool and very, very graphic image I have in my brain right now. Awesome. All right. Well, so like you, I think of it like it gives you the best answer to somebody who keeps asking you why all the time. You're like, well, or like what? Like what? Like ontologies can help you with that. It's like a way to understand the confusing things about the world, I always thought.
I think that's right. I like that interpretation a lot. It's really similar to when, my buddies would ask me in my old internship, like, what are you doing for work? I'm like, I'm grading a dictionary. And they were kind of just scratching their heads. I was like, trust me, it'll make sense down the line. But yeah, I think if I could toss out like my view, whenever I think about ontologies, I'm thinking about like, and it's only because the analogy comes up all the time. I'm thinking about like boiling down the little bits and essentials of the world and just capturing that and then building it out so that people can understand it like you and me. And then, writing it formally so a computer can understand it afterwards as well. And that's essentially what we're trying to do, at least when you're talking about more of an applied ontology aspect. I just want to clarify that when we're talking about ontologies here, I know there's a couple of different definitions in different domains or fields, such as in philosophy or potentially computer science as well. We really want to focus in on this conversation, at least, on applied ontology, which is a new and up-and-coming field that helps with data interoperability and helps with integrating systems and trying to make sure that we get rid of data siloing for other domains. And that's generally the sort of focus we're trying to do here today.
I think that was a really great overview from Cristian. Like, if you want to get into the weeds and understand the why of the world, I mean, this is, and I feel like some debate is part of it too. I mean, I've been engaged in conversations in creating ontologies, and people have full-on 30-plus-minute conversations about the smallest definition clarification. It's really mind-blowing.
I love that Cristian said it's not only human readable, but machine readable. Those two things are so important. There are so many computer programs where if a typical person takes a look at it, they have no idea what it means. There are headers and columns that are just absolute gibberish, or they're so long and you have to interpret it. And that creates the same problem that ontologies are trying to solve.
So we're all trying to teach everything to like talk to each other. That's why people do this and care about it.
Yes. And then we want to be able to automate it. We want to Google Translate between people and between machines. Ontology translate.
All right. Okay.
Translate. There you go. I don't know. It's funny because you say that, and all I could think about is, I can't remember who said the quote, and maybe it was just a friend that said it, but inherently, like some of the smartest people just work so that they could be lazy down the line. So they'll make something great just so that they don't have to do it again.
That's coders in a nutshell.
Yes.
Guys, we can't tease the coders. They are like 20% of the podcast audience. They're going to like check out halfway through episode 1. We can't have that until episode 5. Come on.
Hey, I mean, I'm not teasing them. I'm just saying I'm joining their efforts. Okay, I'm trying to help them make it easier.
Okay, coders, we love you. We tease you because
there's a backbone.
Okay. All right. So we talked about our little definitions. We talked about like why this stuff exists. Let's talk about how this kind of came to be. Like, I'm going to give you a little kind of historical primer. What is the history of ontology? And to answer that, we're going to go back in the way back machine to around 384 to 322 BCE, which is the rough year lifetime of Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher and student of Plato. And much like Greek philosophers, he asks a lot of questions, right? What's and the whys and the hows. And he asked it so much, and he was so concerned about what things were in reality, he created what now we might describe as a ontology. He had different categories to describe things, right? And then underneath that were kind of like different qualities of the category the substance it was made out of, or its position, or its location, all this cool stuff. And he began to like order the world around. He'd say like, what is that? It is a horse. What can we learn about horses? By defining what their qualities are, can we understand the world and the world of horses better by understanding what makes them up, which is a very ancient Greek thing to think about. So from there, we get into the dark ages of ontology. So some centuries and centuries and centuries have passed, and then the party ends because in the dark ages and the middle ages, and some guy called Kant shows up eventually, and there begins to creep in this doubt that man, like humans, we can never really know the world. Like, that's like a bit beyond the pale here. Thankfully for us, this line of thinking began to shift towards the latter end of the 20th century, and with a revival of the belief of Aristotle that humans can understand and define the world around them through their perception. And the main proponent and the founder that we say of formal ontology is a man called Husserl. And he advocated and reinforced the idea that our perception of the world around us, combined with the power of science, can teach us about reality, and they work together. They don't fight against each other. Do we all buy that?
I like all of that. It reminds me of the saying that all models are wrong, but some are useful. So Kant would say, yeah, it's wrong because there's no way we could actually know anything about the world. But Husserl brings back in but they're useful because we can start to understand it.
I think it's also important to note that, and I'm just putting this disclaimer here, we're not claiming to be like full-fledged philosophers. So as we're explaining some of these views, they're going to be very generalized, and you may argue that that isn't what Kant meant by when he said some certain things and stuff like that. Not assuming we're Kantians here. I'm sure there's better arguments, but we're not going to be discussing those immediately. But yeah, John, your description of everything really does show like a nice flow of, all the way from the ancient Greeks. It seems like we've had this sort of desire to map out the world by making an ontology of it. And there's been a lot of disagreements through times. And, even just thinking about the Dark Ages, as soon as you mentioned Kant, I was just thinking about, Hume and Descartes within that like pre-modern era. Descartes obviously coined the famous term, I think, therefore I am, but he says that because he's trying to, stabilize himself in the world because he has this sort of skepticism that nothing around him is real. And then Hume, with his causation, saying that we can't know what actually causes things in the world. It's only like this mental view of the world that we have, and that's like we're making inferences without actually knowing anything. So yeah, it's really interesting just to see all this like kind of boil down straight into the more contemporary stuff like Husserl, and then obviously our professor Barry Smith picked up a lot of this notion and was able to really run with it to create the current field that we're in now.
At this point in history, we need ontologies more than ever because we have more data than ever. If you think back to Aristotle, he was just trying to capture the natural world. And I'm sure soon after that, they were starting to worry about property and taxes. And now think of all of the data we have in so many databases of private corporations and governments, and how all of that could play together. How can we even begin to understand that data and understand where it overlaps and where it doesn't and what it all means?
The amount of things my phone knows about me and will push towards me using the data you talked about is at times very scary. But since we are all ontologists for the power of good, we know we can use that data and this ontological framework we're all trying to make to really help us understand the world around us and help us understand each other and help us both as humans to communicate with each other, but also humans and machines.
I'm just going to jump off this point that you just said. To do ontologies for good, is it possible to do applied ontology for bad, I guess? And I'd say this from like a very philosophical standpoint, of course. Some more background information on myself. I have a bachelor's in philosophy, so I have sometimes some of these questions come out, but yeah.
The bachelor's in philosophy says we're not philosophers and then continues to philosophize.
All right. Well,
I mean, my itch if we're talking about it, but I guess the line of thought goes like this. as an applied ontologist, we're obviously, one of the goals is to create this like sort of data interoperable world, meaning that we're trying to find the very basics of the world and make a good interpretation that everyone can agree upon. If you're doing ontology in that aspect, I guess, as an applied ontologist, it seems like it would be really, I don't know, like, is it possible to do ontology badly in terms of like wanting to maybe make an ambiguous, I don't know, class or notion of the world that you can then like use, just like use the data to make out results that aren't actually true.
Oh, interesting. What is bad? Can we truly know bad? Questions we will answer in episode 4, where we solve all the problems of objective versus relative ethical systems.
There you go.
But I think somebody was going to jump in before I decided to be mildly sarcastic on our first episode.
I love the sarcasm, John. There is a governance aspect to ontologies. And so you cannot just, at least that's my understanding, and so you cannot just create a false class because it has to be accepted. So could you use an ontology for a nefarious purpose? I would say yes, just like you could use AI for a nefarious purpose as well. I feel like there's always, everything has that, quote unquote, could be used for the dark side.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm getting flashback to when I first learned about Aristotle, because even though I'm not a philosophy student, I got exposed to a lot of it. And if I'm remembering right, Aristotle's notion of kind of right and wrong, good and bad, was that there was a virtue, right? We'll say like courage. That's like the good version. Too much courage, you get like being like brash, and you might charge in the battle when you really shouldn't. And if you don't have enough courage, you're like cowardly, right? So Aristotle, I think, would totally say yes, because that was his view of the world. Like ontology, good. A lack of the ontologyness of ontology, bad. Could totally work, I think.
Anything in the hands of the wrong person is potential for evil. AI in and of itself is not evil, but in the hands of unscrupulous people, it can certainly be used for less than good purposes. And ontologies could also be used in that way. A separate question is, can you do ontologies badly? Eliza touched on the governance aspect of that, but also I want to emphasize that we're here not just to talk to you about ontology, but basic formal ontology. And the purpose of that is to keep you from doing bad ontology. Ontology and basic formal ontology specifically have really taken off in the biomedical fields. So the human gene ontology is one, the Open Biomedical Ontology Foundry, the OBO Foundry, is another. It's really been useful in that field. Ontologies, as we know them now, have been around since the 1980s, but back at that time, we didn't have the computing power to make them useful. So now that we're in the 2000s, we have that computing power. We can go a lot faster. We can process data a lot better. And so using these graph databases has become more effective, and ontologies have become more popular. Building ontologies is something fun and easy that you can do on your own, and a lot of people have done it. However, when you just wing it and build your own ontology, you're building something that's not compatible with anything else. And so my ontology needs another ontology in order to interact with John's, which needs another ontology to interact with Eliza's, and another ontology to interact with Cristian's. So when we talk about BFO as your new BFF, it's because it is the one ontology to rule them all. It is the top level ontology that's going to keep everything fully compatible, interactive. You're never going to have to create a new decoder ring again.
And that is a fantastic plug, Sarah, for our next episode, where we dive deep into the details of BFO.
See you next time.
See you next time, podcasters.
See you, everybody.
Bye.